Wild Mamas and friends, welcome back to Wild Mama TV. I'm Tiff, and today I want to talk to you about navigating change and transition. I mean, there is so much change, transition, chaos, unknowns happening in the world today. I mean, usually always, but particularly today. And a big question that I get from a lot of mamas all the times is like, Tiff, how can I dream? How can I create a vision? How can I set goals when everything in my life feels like it's changing all the time? How can I stay grounded? How can I stay centered? How can I stay aligned to me when I feel like I can't even get a grip on what is happening in my life? So if you've been feeling that, today I want to share with you 3 core pillars that I use in my own life. They are so vital for navigating change and transition with grace and with love and clarity. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it will help you transition through. So if you've been navigating really challenging transitions and changes in your life and you want to figure out how to stay grounded, then stay tuned because this video is made for you. All right, y'all, so let's get started. So again, I'm going to share with you 3 core pillars that I use in my own life to help me navigate all the crazy change and transition that happens in my life over time, now, in the past, in the future. I'll use this, but it's also a skill and technique and tool that I share with mamas in my program. And so life can be hard, y'all. I know. Life can be so hard, but one thing that I really value, actually let me get this book real quick. Okay, so one thing that I really value about my favorite book, The Women Who Run with the Wolves, is it talks about how wolves don't interpret challenges or scarcity or famine or whatever as like a negative thing. So let me read you this quote because I feel like this is part of the basis of what I believe, and it's going to help you understand kind of what I'm sharing. So it talks about the life-death life cycle. This book talks about the life-death life cycle. And so here's the quote. It says, "Unlike humans, wolves do not deem the ups and downs of life, energy, power, food, nor opportunity as startling or punitive. The peaks and valleys just are, and wolves ride them as efficiently, as fluidly as possible. The instinctual nature has the miraculous ability to live through all positive boon, all negative consequence, and still maintain relationship to self, to others." So I love that quote because part of why I want to talk about this topic is because I think a lot of people interpret chaos and change and transition as a negative thing. Like, yes, it's painful. Yes, it can be hard. Yes, there's a lot that we have to let go of. Yes, there's so many unknowns, that kind of make us feel anxious. But at the same time, it's just a part of life. And to think that you're going to go through life with no change, no transition, no challenge, no chaos is a bit unrealistic. So the quicker we can accept that these things are normal, the easier it will be to move through. Now, I'm not saying that all chaos in your life is okay. Like, sometimes there's chaos created by negative people in your life, or circumstances that are not healthy, or systems of oppression that make shit difficult for us to function in our day-to-day life. I'm not saying that those things are not real, because they are very much real. But there's also a lot of situations in our lives or chaos in our lives that we have a little bit more control over, or that we can learn to move through with grace and with power, and with an acceptance that these things happen in life. And so before I share these 3 pillars, I just wanted to share that because I do think it's important to learn how to accept that change and transition is not a negative thing. It's not something against you in your life. It's just a part of the life, death, life cycle that, Clarissa Pinkola Estes talks about in the Women Who Run with Wolves book, and just the natural cycle of life. There's always going to be death and rebirth and death again and rebirth again. And it can be a beautiful cycle if you allow yourself to lean into it. But if you're constantly resisting it, constantly sort of like wanting only peace and happiness all the time, you might struggle quite a bit in your life. And trust me, I've been there. I've experienced that as well, which is why I know this so intimately and which is why I can talk about it. But I think it's just important to understand that and accept that first before thinking about these 3 core pillars. So, the 3 core pillars to navigating change, transition, chaos, all the things that you feel like you can't control in your life, and that make life kind of hard sometimes. So I want you to imagine a circle, right? Imagine a circle. Maybe I'll put a picture of a circle in this video. But imagine a circle, right? So we're taught to see our lives in this Western society in a very linear way, right? Straight line. And so when you think about a straight line, the energy in that line kind of starts and then stops. Like it's not regenerative, and it doesn't really refuel itself. It's hard to get momentum, and once you get momentum, you go, but eventually you fall off. And also in a line, if you think about yourself standing in the line, you can usually only see a little bit in front of you and a little bit behind you, maybe to the right and to the left, but you can't really see a long view of yourself or your life or your past. And so what I want you to switch from is, instead of thinking of your life in such a linear way, I want you to come to the circle and think about your life as a circle or a spiral. And so I want you to imagine all the cycles of your life, who you are as a person, as like a pie, or like a circle, because the 3 core pillars that I'm going to share with you are situated in the circle. So I love to live my life very much aligned to the 4 directions. Technically it's 7, but I'll share with you. But in Native traditions, there's a value around the 4 directions, the 4 winds, north, south, east, west, but also above, below, and center. And so I live my life very much according to that, and to the seasons and to the rhythms that are natural to our natural world. And it helps me live more aligned to my natural rhythms and who I am as a person, and to stay connected to the earth, stay connected to the universe, stay connected to my ancestors, and it just keeps me really grounded. So the 3 core pillars that I want to share with you is situated in above, below, and center. And so if you have a pen and paper, I want you to get it, because I want you to write this down. But the first pillar is your vision. The second pillar are your values. And the third pillar is your whole self. It's where your life force resides. So that might not make a lot of sense right now, but I'm going to show you and I'm going to explain it so that you understand what this means. So above is directly related to your vision. So this is where Grandfather Sky resides. If you look up at the sky, it's Grandfather Sky. But above, and where your vision is, it's all about perspective. It's all about what is the big picture in this. So if you think about an eagle flying, or a bird flying high in the sky, or if you think about being high in the mountains or in a plane somewhere, you just get a much bigger perspective in your life. And so when you situate yourself above, above north, when you situate yourself above and you think about your vision, it helps you to take a step back in order to see the greater scheme in life that's taking place. So when I told you to think about your life as a circle, if you can think about your life in that way, if you situate yourself kind of at the top, you want to see all the sides of your life up until this point. You want to see, given what I know about my journey and the cyclical nature of my journey, what can I see? What do I understand about this moment? So even if it's a difficult time, what do I want? Where am I going? You know, so it's helpful to think about from a bigger picture lens. Where am I at this point in my life, and what do I want? So your vision is something that gives you perspective. It's something that helps you take a step back, and it helps you understand this moment in relation to the bigger picture of your life. So a lot of times we get lost in the day-to-day, we get lost in the moment, but when you think about your vision, it helps you kind of come out of the moment, come out of the immediate, come out of all of those emotions that you might be navigating, in order to get a bigger picture lens that helps you get perspective to move forward. So one question I want you to ask yourself when you're thinking about your vision is, what do I want and why? It's very simple. What do I want and why? And so you can kind of situate yourself above in order to get that perspective. And if you think about a circle, no matter where you're sitting in the circle, you can always see all sides. And so we want to sort of operate from that lens of like, I can get perspective in my life. If you're thinking from a very linear stance, you can't see too far in front of you, you can't see too far behind you. But if you think about the circle, you can see all sides. And when you give yourself the opportunity to see all sides, so much wisdom will be gained. And so the second pillar that I want to talk to you about is your vision. So your vision is situated below, right? So we have above, and then we have below. Below is where Grandmother Earth is. For me, these are your roots. So to me, and everything that I teach in my Mama Master Plan program, and some mamas that I work with and coach with, everything is rooted in your values. So for me, I don't believe that you can stay grounded if you don't know your values and if you don't align to your values. Now you might say, well, Tiff, I know my values. I value honesty. I value communication. I value family. You know, that's cool. But the big thing that I've noticed with mamas and with people in particular is we tend to have default values that we inherited from our family, from our parents, or from our conditioning. And we rarely ever intentionally think about, what are my values? What is important to me? And actively shift from, hey, that was a value I grew up with, but that value actually doesn't serve me anymore. For example, mothers tend to value putting everybody else first. That's some shit we were taught. But when we think about what we want, when we think about where we actually are, a lot of mamas really want to prioritize themselves. They want to prioritize quiet time. They want to prioritize a personal connection and relationship with themselves. That's a different value. It's a whole different value system. So if we never question those defaults, we can't ever come to clarity around what our values actually are. And if we don't come to clarity around what our values are, we can't get rooted. We can't root deep into the earth and into the ground, because what we're rooted in isn't aligned to us. There's a misalignment. And so values are just so important, and it's not just naming your values, but I teach in my program that values are directly associated with your needs. And so I do have a little free download around values that I created before. So if you're interested in kind of like working through your values, you can download that. It's in the link below. But it's also something that I talk about in my program, and applications are open. But anyways, so thinking about your values and going beyond just like your default values to really think about what you value. So one question that I want you to think about as you're thinking about your second pillar is, what do I value? What is important to me? What do I need? And what does that say about what I value? And then figuring out that shift between the default values and starting to align more to your own values. And so one of my big values is imperfect action. It's a huge value of mine. And so for me, I encourage you to take imperfect action when thinking about your vision and thinking about your values, because I think a lot of mamas tend to get stuck thinking that they have to know it all, or like have this very epic vision for themselves, or like eloquently stated values, but nah, like we want shit that's practical. We want shit that's useful. And so I'd much rather you take imperfect action and just name something so you can get moving, rather than overthinking it and then staying stuck. We don't want that. Okay, so the third pillar that I want to talk to you about is in the center. So we had above, below, and now we're thinking about the center. And in the center, I like to call it whole you or whole self. And so for me, in the center, this is where all the directions come to a head. They all come together in the center. And so for me, this is where your life force is flowing. It's where our peace resides. And so for me, thinking about whole you is really about thinking about what makes you you. What makes you whole? You know, what are all the parts of you that need love, that need attention, that make you special, and create a solid base for you to function as a whole being. And so I know that for a lot of mamas, feeling like your life is not integrated, right? Like feeling all over the place, feeling like, okay, if I'm gonna work on this part of my life, I gotta go to therapy over here, and then to do this part, I gotta read this book over here, or I gotta go to school for this, or I gotta take my kids over here for this, or like, we kind of feel like scattered and all over the place. And a lot of mamas have expressed to me that they just don't feel whole. They don't feel like their life is integrated. And so whole you, whole self is all about integration. It's all about, okay, here's my vision, here are my values, here's my whole me, here's what I know I need to feel supported and loved and cared for on a day-to-day basis. And it's not about what other people can do for me, it's about what I can do for myself. Taking care of me as my whole being. So a lot of mamas tend to deny themselves of the things that make them whole, because they think that as a mama they shouldn't be doing that. But again, those are old systems, those are old values that aren't aligned to us, conditioning that is designed to oppress us as mamas. And so thinking about the whole you really have to think about what are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that, fulfill you in a deep, deep way? And so for you, one question, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget. One question that I want you to think about, or a couple questions in thinking about rooting yourself in your whole self, in your whole you, is who are you when you feel whole? Like when in your life have you felt whole? And is there a time when you felt? I'm sure there is. But even if it's a little moment, use it as a clue to help you understand what it feels like for you to be whole. And then I want you to think about when your life force is really flowing. When your life force is really flowing, what do you choose to do? Where do you spend your time? You know what I mean? So a lot of mamas think, oh, if I didn't have kids, I would. If I didn't have this, I would. So what are those things? And then how can you do them? So thinking about change and transition and navigating change and transition, a big part of staying grounded and centered is knowing who you are and what you need and prioritizing that shit. What we tend to do is when chaos comes or transition comes, we start to live our lives letting the change dictate how we show up for ourselves. We let the chaos dictate how I'm going to show up. Oh, Tiff, I can't do my morning routine because I don't know when my husband's going to come back or my partner's going to come back from work, or I don't even know if I'm going to have a job next week, or this person, my neighbor's home all the time, they fucking play music and I can't hear and I can't think, I can't whatever it is. There's so many different things. My kids are at home all the time in school. Like, there's always going to be so many different things and excuses and problems and chaos, but you have to center yourself. You have to center your vision, you have to center your values, and you have to center your whole self. When you can prioritize those three things, no matter the chaos, if you choose to show up for it, your life is going to be totally different, right? So while you may not be able to control, the different changes and transitions that are happening in your life, 3 things that you can control is your vision, what you want, what do you need, and why. Your values, what do you value? What do you need? What are your roots? What are you unrooting? Right? You can control that. And then your whole self. Who am I as a whole being? What fuels me? What feeds me? What keeps me whole and balanced? And how can I align my actions to what I say I value and to what it takes for me to be whole and what vision I have for my life, right? So I want to empower you to come back to the parts that you can control, right? When we focus on the things that we can't control, we disempower ourselves. When we focus on the things that we can control, we empower ourselves. And the 3 things that you can control right now is your vision, your values, and your whole self. So all you got to do is figure out the time, make the time to think about these things. And if you are looking for time, you can check out this video where I give you literally 13 pro tips and tools to find the time for yourself. So just watch that video because it's jam-packed with all kinds of insight. But I want you to do it, and I want you to know that you can navigate this change and this transition and the difficulties that you're facing. I believe in you, and I know that I've been there, and I'm in the midst of change and transition right now as we speak. So believe me, it is possible, but it is a choice also. And if you're tired, rest. That might be something that you feel like you need right now. Maybe rest is a value right now. So it doesn't mean you got to go do and be and, all the things, be productive. But it's just like, what do you need right now as your authentic self? What would help you be whole as a person? What would inspire you to show up every day? And then just do it. So thank you so much, Wild Mamas, for watching this video. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. Every Tuesday, I'll be dropping gems and bombs on you to help you heal, be whole, and live aligned to the energy of your soul as a mama. I'll see you next week, y'all. Peace.